See, the reality is a man's ego is self-confidence and a sense of worth. It's greatly tied to his wife. Yeah, believe it or not. This morning I was in my office and I ran across some notes. I was intending to do a series on it, and I thought it would really be cool to share this with you. And here's what I want to look at today and show you 7 ways a wife injures her husband without even knowing it, and 7 ways a husband injures his wife without even knowing it. And I'm thinking, man, could a lot of people be experiencing that? I mean, sometimes arguments take place and you're trying to figure out, well, what did I do? And we're not even aware that we may be injuring somebody. And this can go beyond husband and wife. It can go where friendships are concerned. That maybe you said something a certain way and you made somebody feel some kind of way. And then when they finally confronted you with it, you were like, I didn't even know I did that. So let me share these notes with you. I thought they were pretty cool when I was looking at them this morning. I thought, let me grab these notes and share these with you guys. So let's deal with the ways that a wife injures her husband and she may not know about it. The first one, and these are pretty practical once I bring it to your attention, but the first one is when she puts him down in front of others. When she puts him down in front of others. Now, it's one thing to see that first point, but I don't know, this was maybe 30 years ago. Listen to this commentary. Most men will not counter this type of humiliation in public. They will simply take it and hurt. And then they'll address it out of stored up resentment. And most of the time, it's addressed in anger. Wow. I'm sure somebody can relate with that. Number 2, here's a second way a wife injures her husband without even knowing it. Go behind him when he tries to do something at home. Going behind him when he's trying to do something at home. You know, like always showing him how much better you can do things than he can do them. For example, let's say when he fixes the bed, well, you just make sure that, you show him the correct way to put the pillows up. Now, he'll be reminded every time you do that he doesn't measure up to your standard. And that's basically what it is. Now, you see it as harmless. I'm just kind of showing you that the pillows go here. But at the same time, he's reminded that he's just not measuring up to your standard, and he's feeling inferior, feels like he falls short. So that's what happens when you go behind him and he tries to do something at home and you're going behind him, reminding him that he doesn't measure up. Wow. Look at this third one. Constantly badgering him. If he doesn't do what you want him to do, then you kind of remind him again and again, because that's really how you accomplish what you want it to do. You know, this is what you want it to do in the first place, and he feels badgered over and over and over again. Now, I think it's pretty cool to talk about, how maybe a husband might be getting injured and you don't even know you're injuring him. This is not to condemn anybody, but just I thought this would be real cool to bring out just for self-examination. Here's the fourth one. You use here's the phrase, you always phrase. You use it excessively. You always say that. You always do that. This is what happens because he always does. And, the best news yet, it helps build him into a man that always will. When you say always, because he always does, then you kind of take a part of being responsible for him eventually always doing it, using the wrong words. You always say that. You always, you don't want to do that. You want to kind of refrain back from those words. You follow what I'm saying? Number 5, this is what injures him. hold him responsible for your emotional well-being. Holding him responsible for your emotional well-being. Now listen to this. He's the reason you feel bad today, and every other day you feel bad. So make sure he knows it's his fault. And you don't have to tell him. Just subtly just be in a bad mood towards him without releasing him from guilt. He'll take the hint and own the responsibility. He will think it's his fault, even if it's not his fault. What is that? That happens when you hold him responsible for your emotional well-being. Wow. Should you hold anybody responsible for your emotional well-being? I like the way Taffy says. She says, I am not responsible for how you feel. Wow. And here's the sixth one. Complain about what you don't have or get to do. You injure your husband and you don't even know it because you complain about what you don't have or what you don't get to do. So here's a little note, and I don't know why I made this a while back, but here's a note I put by this. He has a desire to fix things. He wants to be a provider. Every man does. Some attempt to live it out and some don't. But when he's trying, doing the best he can, and yet he feels he isn't measuring up, he is then crushed by the complaining. And when you're always commenting on what the other women have that you don't have, he carries the blame, even if you're not intending it to be his fault or to blame him. You're not intending to blame him. So think about this. Complaining about what you don't have or get to do, it really resurrects the inferiority complex. And when you feel inferior, you feel like you don't matter, you feel like you don't measure up, you feel like you fall short. And here's the last one. That's my dog. Don't appreciate his efforts. Don't appreciate his efforts. Here's a note I made of that. You want to injure a man. Here's the thing you do. Refuse to appreciate the things that he feels he does well. You want to injure him? Just don't appreciate the things he feels like he does well. Now, it could be work, it could be a hobby, a trait, but he feels part of his identity in the things that he does. And so when you don't find them as valuable as he does, his ego is now bruised and it affects him and it injures him. So I want you to think about that, and I'm going to let you go now, and then we're going to talk about the next time we get together. We're going to talk about the 7 ways a husband injures a wife and he doesn't know it. See, the reality is a man's ego is self-confidence and a sense of worth. It's greatly tied to his wife. Yeah, believe it or not. And just as a woman is to her husband, we can be fragile people, sometimes more than others. And it's important to see now the other side. How does the wife feel like she's been injured by the husband? And what is the husband doing over and over again to the wife? And she's being injured over and over again. You don't want to miss the next segment.